Alright, back in Vegas, been back about a week. First time I'm filming. This is the best view I could give you. My Bally's room is facing south, facing like Paris and Alara, the hotel that's kind of connected to Miracle Mile and PH. Anyway, shout outs first before I get to something great that happened earlier. A guy stopped me in Bally's about a week ago wearing a Texas Rangers hat. You just got your chips, you were going to your table as I was standing in line waiting to get chips. It was just very quick. You said you liked the videos. Glad we could meet. Also in Bally's, someone stopped me when I was leaving one day. You said there's a lot of YouTube channels out there. You really liked mine. I think you were from India. Glad we could meet also. Greg. Been seeing Greg at MGM. His friend Lance really likes the videos and asked for a picture, Greg and I, to send back to his friend Lance. Greg didn't know that I actually needed a picture with him because of something that happened last year. So we both got a picture with each other. Also, been seeing Rocky at MGM. Rocky's cousin, I think, likes the channel and asked Rocky if he's ever in the videos. Every time I say, Rocky, see him at Caesars, always betting the overs in the USC games, that's the same Rocky I'm talking about, Rocky's cousin. And Jason at MGM said he likes to get his work weekend and then on the weekends watch my videos. So I don't think I'm missing anyone. Brandon and I met months ago. We went to the MGM buffet earlier today, so thanks for the invitation, Brandon. Don't think I'm forgetting anyone. If anyone comes up, I'll say so at the end of the video. Glad I can meet and re-meet everybody. Now, I was at MGM all day. This was great. Actually, our table for during this rakeback promo was actually pretty lively in terms of hands and conversations all day. A guy eventually sits in the 6th seat. This guy was great. He was only there like an hour and a half. I was in the 9. I was talking to a guy from Minnesota in the 8 for a while, like all day. We both opened the table and he was there pretty late. A guy in the 6th seat sits. Now, he wasn't annoying, but he talked, his volume was a little louder than average, and he like never stopped. So I could see how some people might be agitated, especially the like 60-year-old woman in the 5 seat who was right next to him didn't seem to love it. I was having a great time. He sits down, he instantly asks, like me and the 8 seat together, what casinos don't have locals? Or what casinos do have locals? So we said like South Point, Red Rock, and I don't know, Golden Nugget could go either way. So he asked a lot of questions about all this, like instantly, like no hello, like he's just asking questions about casinos, how to get there. And even though we explained it, he didn't really seem to understand. He thought South Point and Golden Nugget were very close to each other. Not at all. He asked us a lot of questions about the layout of Vegas. Then, just like, as if like you're done reading the chapter of a book and you turn the page, he instantly starts talking to the 4 seat. I don't know why exactly the 4. He starts talking to the 4 seat about buffets. He says, is the buffet here any good? The 1 seat chimes in and says, no, you're definitely going to get food poisoning. I don't get why so many people hate on the MGM buffet. Actually, there's some dishes I really like, and then the basic things are there, and you know what you're getting. And I've never gotten sick. I never heard anyone say they got sick from eating there. So, but the 1 seat said, you're definitely going to get food poisoning. But he's mostly talking to the 4 seat about buffets. The best part of this buffet conversation was when he asked the 4 seat, which is better, the Luxor buffet or the Excalibur buffet? Because I'm staying at Luxor, and I notice the Luxor buffet and the Excalibur buffet are both $2 more than the MGM buffet. So I figure if it's more, it must be better. Excalibur and Luxor are both better than MGM. I'm willing to pay an extra $2, of course, to eat at the better buffet. But between Excalibur and Luxor, which one is better? No clue why all of a sudden he's asking the 4 seat this. The 4 seat hadn't said anything since the 6 seat sat to indicate he's an expert on buffets or restaurants in Vegas. But he's asking the 4 seat. The air conditioning isn't bothering you with the audio. But I'm not going to do anything differently, so just deal with it if it is. He asked the 4 seat, and the 4 seat like thinks, he puts some thought into this and says, the Luxor buffet. And then no one says anything for about 3 seconds, and then the 4 seat says, I've never been to either, but I would say the Luxor buffet. And I say, so what are you basing it on? If you've never eaten at either of them, never got an answer to that question, but now the 6 seat is hell-bent on going to the Luxor buffet before his stay is done. The highlight of the 6 seat stay at our table was probably when he asked the waitress for bourbon. So he asked, you know, Are there alcoholic drinks around here? Yes. Eventually the waitress comes, and like as the waitress is getting close, he says to me, you know, I'm gonna get a shot of Woodford. There's no chance. I don't even know alcohols. I know there's no chance he's getting Woodford. It sounds too expensive. I never hear anyone order it. He's not getting it. I tell him, well, you're not getting Woodford, but you could get whatever liquor this is. It's going to be another brand. He asks the waitress for Woodford and says the word Woodford at least 5 times during this request. Yeah, I'd like a shot of Woodford. Woodford bourbon. It's a bourbon. It's called Woodford. Do you have any Woodford? This went on for a really long time. Eventually the waitress said, like, I don't think so, but if there is, I'll get it. I guess she was a newer waitress. As a backup, he asks for a Michelob Ultra, which didn't seem to be the backup that I thought he would guess, because it's not bourbon. Then he says, like, as she's walking away, any bourbon you have if you don't have Woodford. He said Woodford so many times. The waitress comes back, and it was kind of hard to hear. Her voice was a little deep, and it was a little noisy. She hands him bourbon and says what it is, and I couldn't quite make it out. So after she leaves, because she was a lot closer to the 6th seat when she handed him the bourbon, I say, what bourbon did she say this is? And he goes, you know, I couldn't really hear that good. I think she said Air Force. There's no chance the answer is Air Force. It can't be legal to name bourbon Air Force. I actually thought I heard golf course though, which is pretty close to Air Force, but we still don't know what it is. Like an hour later, we ask another waitress who's much better and knows the menu, and she's been there a while. And she listed all the bourbons, and it must have been Old Forester is what she was saying, and we didn't quite hear that. So anyway, he didn't come close to getting Woodford, which is funny because like 3 hours later, a guy sits in the 6th seat and says, yeah, I'm gonna order a shot. I wonder if they have Woodford. I couldn't believe it. The guy from Minnesota on my right was still there. He couldn't believe it. Like, this guy was just pranking us. But anyway, going back to that original 6th seat guy, I really enjoyed the Woodford. Maybe the, like, highlight that even tops that is when he hit a straight flush and did not win the bonus. It was funny. I don't wish for him to, you know, not have that money, but it was a funny event. So he asked a lot of questions about the promos. He wasn't going to be in town enough, nor was he understanding the rakeback promo. The 4th seat was doing about the worst job imaginable explaining it to him. All you need to say, I don't know why these people are so focused on explaining it to everybody else. It makes it more difficult for you to hit your hours and cash out your money if everyone on earth knows about it, but people love telling other people about it. But he's doing a terrible job. The 4th seat is like taking a lot of time to explain this to him. He just keeps saying, like, he's always like 2 words off. The way to explain it is, yeah, there's a rakeback promotion. You can cash in your hours for money. The minimum level, you could play 15 hours and then cash in your hours for money. Your hours reset to 0, but you got the $100 and you could work towards another set of hours. That's a very good explanation. The 4th seat just keeps saying, like, the terms on the paper. He keeps mentioning the level up caveat of the promotion. He keeps saying rakeback, not that the guy really understands what rakeback is. Every time the guy asks, like, how do I, like, accrue it, the guy just keeps saying, like, no, not on your card. Like, he's saying you don't have to, like, scan your card at a kiosk to, like, trigger it, like for some Caesars promotions, but you do need to be swiped in with your card at the table. The 4th seat did about the worst job possible explaining all this to the 6th seat. Not that it matters, because the guy's not going to be here for this, but the guy in the 6th seat did ask about the high hand promotions, and it's not high hands of the hour, they're just progressive high hands. There's an amount. When it gets hit, it resets. The quad, straight flushes, royal flushes, they all reset to different amounts, but there's a whiteboard. We were like the closest table to the whiteboard that had all the hands and all the amounts. The guy actually asked a lot of questions about the high hands, and he seemed to understand, like he seemed to grasp all of it. He gets into a hand that folds around to him in the small. He asks to chop, which will be funny later. Can't chop at MGM, so he calls. The big blind checks. $2 from each of them. The pot is 4. The flop goes check, check. The turn, the 6th seat checks, and the big blind bets $2. Call. Now there are 4 pre-flop and 4 on the turn. The pot is $8. River goes check, check. There's only $8 in the pot, and the one question the 6th seat did not ask is there a minimum in the pot necessary for the high hand? The answer is yes. It's $10. So he turns over 6-4 of hearts. He turned a straight flush, 8 high. He doesn't get it because there's not enough in the pot. It would have been $400 he would have gotten. And he wasn't really mad. He was kind of taking it well, but it was hilarious that of all the questions he asked about the layout of Vegas and buffets and other restaurants and bourbon and the rakeback promotion and the high hand promotion, the one question he failed to ask was, is there a minimum that needs to be in the pot for the high hand to be paid? The answer was yes. And going back to him wanting to chop, he was kind of like, he was really taking it well, but like he would have preferred to have the $400 still. And he kept talking about like, oh man, if only you could chop. It was weird why he was talking about chopping. He wished it didn't even come to that. Like if he could have chopped, the hand wouldn't have happened, and that was his best case scenario. He kept asking like how much money needed to be in there, like if he bet 2 on the river, would that have even worked? Well, he didn't really seem to understand when I said like the big blind would need to call, but if the bet on the turn were $3 instead of 2, that would have been 10. It's unfortunate that there were 2 bets. One was the blind of $2 and one was the turn bet, which was also $2, which is very rare, and the pot didn't get to 10. So that guy was a lot of fun, very entertaining. His stay was not long. It was like an hour and a half. I had a ton of fun while he was at the table. The 8 seed, the guy from Minnesota, had a ton of fun. The 7 seed, who's actually really annoying, and I've played with the past 3 days. I can't believe how annoying he is. He seemed to enjoy it. A lot of the table seemed to enjoy it, except for that elderly woman in the 5 seat. But that's my story from MGM tonight. Very entertaining hour and a half in the middle of like a 12-hour session for me. I'll have something else to tell you tomorrow.